Here's the humanized version. Maybe you've had this moment. You step outside in the morning, coffee in hand, same as always, and something just feels off. The yard looks exactly the same. Same fence, same trees, same feeder hanging where it always has. But it's quiet in a way that takes a second to register. A specific kind of quiet. And then it hits you. The birds are gone. Not all at once, though. That's never how it happens. First, there were just fewer of them. Then the ones you actually recognized, the regulars, stopped showing up. And then one morning you're standing there and the whole yard just feels empty. Like something quietly made a decision to leave and nobody thought to mention it. Here's the thing that makes it strange. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't harm anything. You just lived your life. Trimmed the hedges when they got overgrown. Replaced the old bulbs with new ones. Mowed on Saturday morning like you always do. Normal stuff. Routine stuff. But to the birds that used to treat your yard like home, those perfectly ordinary habits read as something else entirely. Something that slowly, quietly rewrote what your space means. And once a bird redraws its map, it almost never comes back. Here's what most people genuinely don't realize about birds and the spaces they live in. They don't see your yard the way you see it. You look out there and you see a garden. Maybe a nice one. Familiar, safe, maybe a little overgrown in the good corners. A bird sees a network, every branch, every shrub line, every gap in the fence and overhang on the roof. It's all a landmark, a data point in a navigational system that has been running without interruption for tens of millions of years. Birds don't just visit places, they memorize them in extraordinary detail. And they trust that memory completely because their survival depends on it being accurate. So when something in that map changes, even something small, something you'd never think twice about, the map breaks. And for a migratory bird especially, a broken map isn't just a problem, it's a crisis. Think about what it actually takes for a bird to return to your yard year after year. Some of these animals are traveling thousands of miles, navigating by starlight, by magnetic fields, by the exact position of the sun at specific times of day. And woven into all of that, embedded in the final stretch of a journey that started in another country, are the specific visual landmarks of the places they've been before. The silhouette of a particular tree against the skyline. The gap in the roofline they used to slip through. The overgrown patch of hedge that smelled a certain way every April. These aren't just preferences, they're anchor points. The final coordinates in a route that took years to build and refine. And when those anchors disappear, when the tree gets shaped into something different, when the hedge gets ripped out and replaced with something tidier, the bird arrives and finds a landscape it doesn't fully recognize anymore. It circles, it hesitates, and then more often than we ever realize, it just moves on. And this is honestly the part that's hardest to sit with, because the habits that erase these landmarks aren't reckless ones, they're not careless, they're the careful ones, the tidy ones. The ones that come from genuinely wanting to take care of your space. That aggressive autumn cleanup. Every leaf cleared, every dead stalk cut back, every tangled corner finally squared off, looks like responsible maintenance to us. But to the insects that birds depend on for protein, it's the removal of the only winter shelter they had. And when the insects disappear from a yard, the birds that eat them follow, quietly. No warning, no obvious moment where you can point and say, that's when it happened. The perfectly uniform lawn, no clover, no dandelions, no irregular patches of anything that wasn't planted on purpose. It looks alive. It's green. But it's basically a biological desert. There's almost nothing there for a bird to actually find. No ground nesting cover, no seed variety, no insect habitat hiding in the mess. Just grass repeating in every direction. And then there's the lighting. The new LEDs left on all night because they're efficient, because they feel safe, because why not? Most people never think twice about it, but migratory birds navigate partly by the stars. They use light gradients at night to orient themselves mid-flight. Artificial light pulls them off course in ways that are genuinely difficult to track. It scrambles their internal clock. It makes birds start singing at 3 in the morning in the middle of February because something in their biology read that light and concluded it was spring. And a bird that misreads the season, that breeds too early, that sets off on migration at the wrong time, that confusion compounds. Across months, across an entire lifetime. But here's what makes all of this so difficult to actually see. The effects don't show up right away. That's the thing about this kind of change. It doesn't announce itself. It just accumulates. Season by season, habit by habit, quietly stacking up. You do the big autumn cleanup in October. The following spring looks totally normal. Nothing seems different, but the insects that sheltered in that leaf litter didn't make it through winter. And by May, the warbler that used to work that corner of your garden came back, found nothing, and moved 2 streets over. You never connected those two things. There was no single moment that would have let you. Researchers call this landscape simplification, the slow, incremental removal of complexity from a space. And every individual change on its own seems minor, reasonable even. But when you zoom out, across a whole neighborhood, across a generation of homeowners all making the same reasonable choices, the cumulative effect on bird habitat is genuinely staggering. Urban bird populations in many regions have dropped by 30, 40, sometimes 50% over the last few decades. And the places they're vanishing from aren't construction zones or industrial areas. They're tidy suburbs, nice streets, neighborhoods full of people who put out feeders and genuinely care about nature. That's the part that really stays with you. Here's the humanized version, and then there's something even quieter than all of that. Something you can't see at all happening completely beneath the surface. The birds that grew up in your yard, the ones actually born in the hedge that learned to find food in your garden, that spent years watching their parents navigate that specific little corner of the world, they carry something, not just instinct, something more personal than that. The knowledge of this place. Which perches are safe, where water pools after rain. Which window catches the sky in a way that signals danger. Which stretch of fence actually blocks the wind. That knowledge doesn't come from genetics. It passes from parent to chick through watching, through proximity, through years of just being in the same space together. So when a yard becomes inhospitable, when the complexity gets stripped away, when the landmarks shift, when the food sources quietly disappear season after season, the experienced birds leave first, the ones who know the most, the teachers. And what leaves with them isn't just their presence, it's everything they knew. Generations of accumulated local knowledge just gone. The younger birds that come after have no one to learn from, no map to inherit. They show up in a place their lineage knew intimately, and they're starting from absolutely nothing. That's not just a loss for the birds. It's a kind of erasure. Quiet, invisible, and honestly, almost entirely permanent. And I think the hardest part of all of this, the part that really sits with you, isn't that the harm was done carelessly. It's that it was done carefully, with good intentions, with a genuine desire to take care of something. Your yard was never just your yard. To the birds that chose it, that mapped it, memorized it, raised generations in it, came back to it across thousands of miles, it was a specific place in the world, irreplaceable, the way only somewhere truly known can be irreplaceable. And the small habits that changed it, they didn't feel like much. They never do. Go back to that quiet morning for a second, the one where you stepped outside and felt something missing before you could even put a name to it. Feeder's still full. The yard is still neat. Everything exactly where you left it. You were standing in a space that used to be a landmark on someone else's map. And it wasn't anymore. That feeling that something had left without leaving a trace was real. You were right to feel it. Most people don't even get that far. Most people just top up the feeder and walk back inside. But you're still thinking about it, and honestly, that's where everything starts to shift. So here's what I want to ask you, and I want you to actually sit with it for a second before you answer. Think of one thing in your yard that used to be a little messy, the corner you finally tidied up. The bush you finally cut back, the patch of weeds you finally got rid of. Now think about whether anything stopped showing up after that. Drop it in the comments. Because I have a feeling a lot of people have felt exactly this. They just never connected the two things.